Hello, my name is Bob Bamber and welcome to the Wrestling 20 Years Ago podcast. We're going back in the time machine to September of 1996 for Volume 3 of this month's show. Volume 1 takes you to WCW, looking at Fall Brawl. Volume 2 to the WWF, looking at In Your House Mind Games. And Volume 4 is our latest trip to the UFC. We're here in Volume number 3, where I'll be joined for ECW by Kieran Mitchell. Kieran, hello.
Evening, Bob.
And I've been joined by Chris Lacey. Chris, hello.
How do, Bob?
Now, Chris, last time I was on the show, we had a normal news segment, and now we don't, because you and Del kind of ruined it, but I think we are where we are now. Just to formally say that Chris is now properly in charge of ECW shows going forward. I am here, in theory, as guest host, if you like. But Chris, as I understand it, I meant to throw some quote-unquote headlines at you, and then you're going to tell me what's happened. Is that right?
That is how it's been going.
Right. Okay, headline number 1. Mainstream television on American Journal. What's all that about?
So, can't really find out too much because of it being in America and we don't have it over here in the UK. But ECW was on the American mainstream TV channel on the show called American Journal. During this show, a segment was shown all about ECW, and in that they showed highlights of a street fight which they used slow motion footage of, to which Paul Heyman said that he absolutely loved it, how it came out, and it looked awesome, and it's built some more buzz around the company.
Shane Douglas collapses backstage at When Worlds Collide.
So, there was rumours of Shane Douglas collapsing after his match at the When Worlds Collide show. The injuries have been sustained to his neck and his back, and these are believed to have happened while he was at the gym. The severity isn't known, but he hasn't been taking any time off TV or on the road, so I would imagine it's nothing too serious.
The biggest show in the ECW history will take place in November at November to Remember, but will not be their first pay-per-view.
As we have been waiting for the pay-per-view debut of ECW, we will have to wait longer. ECW have announced that they are having more space in the ECW arena for the November to Remember show in November, but it will not be in time for the pay-per-view deal.
That building can't get any bigger, can it?
I would imagine they can only put extra people in somewhere. I don't
swear
know how they're squeezing them in.
We've expanded the ECW arena. Like, the building's the same size, but, you know, they managed to make it work. And last but by no means least, ECW appearing on WWF television.
So, at the In Your House pay-per-view this month, Sandman, Paul Heyman and Tommy Dreamer have all been found in the front row. There was a bit of a kerfuffle with them in the front row during the Justin Hawk Bradshaw and Savio Vega strap match. They were all taken away from the arena, but obviously seen and the crowd chanting for ECW. On the following night's Monday Night Raw, Taz and Bill Alfonso jump the guardrails and got involved whilst the tag team title match is on between Owen Hart and British Bulldog. Again, Taz is there with his usual sign of Sabu fears Taz and Alfonso with his whistle, but again, very quickly got rid of and a jump cut taken place on the TV taping.
Kieran, any thoughts on any of the news?
Really intrigued with the appearance of them, what they're going to do with the ECW guys and WWF. The Hawk Bradshaw and Savio Vega obviously seemed quite surprised that they were there. It'd just be interesting to see if anything comes. Maybe is there going to be some cross-promotional thing? Are WWF in on it, or did they ECW guys just turn up off their own back? So it'd be interesting going forward to see what happens with that.
Well, the ECW guys definitely didn't just turn off their own back. As a quick cross promotion, you can hear us discuss this kind of in as it happens on the WWF Volume 2 this month. You haven't listened to that already. As I understand it, and this is my knowledge of the WWF angle of the story, this is basically initially just a 2-night thing, happened once on the pay-per-view and once the day after. And basically the idea was just to try and, one, create some extra interest around the TV, and you'll hear why that didn't work for a whole other host of reasons on Volume 2. But also just to try and quell the pro-ECW, kind of fan base in Philadelphia for the pay-per-view itself. As to what's going to happen going forward, interesting to see, because I can't imagine it's one and done. But I don't know where they take it forward. But as we discussed in the WWF show, WWF need anything they can get right now. And if it's some kind of quote-unquote invasion from ECW, a la the NWO, maybe. There's a lot of talented wrestlers in ECW that WWF in the short term could probably benefit from. Chris, any more thoughts on that?
Well, as you said, we all depend see how it all plays out. It can be beneficial on both sides. If ECW were to, say, get a couple of WWF names in to build up house numbers, especially if they're not doing it in the ECW arena, that could sort of be beneficial to them financially. And obviously, if they can get seen on mainstream TV and on a bigger audience, obviously it gives them more exposure. So, in theory, for ECW, it's win-win. It would be the WWF side, I think, would be taking more of the risk on that.
Yeah, I'd say off the back of that, or piggyback off that, Chris, is one thing I would say is I can't see them doing ECW style brawls on WWF. So it if you're not going to go the whole way with the invasion angle, Bob, I don't really see I can see the point in getting new eyes on WWF, but other than that, if you're not going to go all the way with it, I can't really see the point.
Yeah, it'd be an it'll be interesting. I'm intrigued to see what happens next. But in terms of ECW television, Chris, it doesn't get mentioned at all, does it? I mean, I know shows get taped in advance, and this happened kind of on the 22nd of September, but I don't think it makes any of the ECW TVs, does it?
It is not mentioned. If it wasn't for the fact of obviously knowing it from the WWF side, you wouldn't know it happened if you just watched ECW.
Interesting to see what happens in October. Now, I like the new segment. I don't think we could transition it across as WWF or WCW because it would take about an hour in the show. But I like the more free-form format, and it does substitute some discussion that we would perhaps have at the end of the show. A couple of bits of admin. Firstly, Chris is now the man in charge. This is a really weird show, because I'm a late substitute presenting. Chris is in charge doing his bit, and Kieran's going to jump in with some TV reports as well. It's a bit all over the place. We're kind of making it up as we go along. Second thing to say is we are now on Patreon. For those who don't know, Patreon is a system. If you would like, you can chuck us a few bucks each month just to say thank you for, I would say, enlightening you, but it's up and down when this show comes in terms of good wrestling stuff. But if you enjoy the show and you listen to it, you like to chuck us a couple of quid back. We are offering early access to the shows for $5 a month. That basically just means when we record them and edit them, we'll put them on Patreon before they go live at the end of the month. I'll plug that more at the end, but if you want to find out more, it's patreon.com/wrestling20rs, and the link is in the description. Right, we've got a show to hack together. We were going to do When Worlds Collide, but the take we got of that show was a bit up and down. We got about 4 matches out of about 10, so that wasn't ideal. And the big matches on that show do appear on TV. So basically to go through TV, I'm a late substitute presenting. So Kieran, it's over to you for some of the TV, and then I'm going to do some play-by-play. Chris is going to chip in with some content. It's the proper team effort, this. But Kieran, start with September the 3rd TV.
Francine, right now, everybody's sitting at home with their stale potato chips on their bellies, their warm beer sitting next to them, and they're all in front of the boob tube watching the Jerry Lewis Labor Day telethon, hoping they might get a glimpse of football number 1. They're all hoping that those kids at home, all the lame kids at home, pick a pencil up in their mouth and scrawl out a note to Jerry Lewis saying, "Please, Mr. Lewis, please, raise just one more stinking dollar, because that buck might make the difference between whether Pitbull number 1, Gary Wolf, ever wrestles again or not." You see, the swim from the island behind me For a franchise, that's nothing more than a light workout. But for you, Gary Wolf, it is something that you will never do. Spending the day at the beach, that might not be strenuous. But for you, Gary, it's something that you can never do. Strenuous? Spending the day with you, sweetheart. Now that's strenuous.
Gary, you can't do this either.
Oh, but I can.
Okay, Bob. So we start the TV on the 3rd of September 1996. We've got a promo by the Lake with Shane Douglas and Francine wearing not very much. Basically here they're calling out Gary Wolf the Pitbull, who they've injured, severe neck injury. And Douglas is suggesting that the Pitbull may never wrestle again. Constantly making light of the Pitbull's plight and, sort of basically burying the guy. We cut to a highlight package of the Douglas and Pitbull feud that this has come from. It leads into another Douglas and Francine promo with Joey Styles. This time, Douglas is reminding the Pitbull of what he has actually taken from him, including the belt and, indeed, his woman Francine. We now go to a video package of Doug Furnas and Rob Van Dam picking their dream partners, quote-unquote, for the upcoming tag match at When Worlds Collide. Van Dam tells Furnas he needs to learn some respect. We get a short segment where Van Dam tells Heyman and Nonsense that Sabu has to be his tag partner for When Worlds Collide. We shift to highlights of the cat fight 1996 between Missy Hyatt and Laurie Fullington. The cat fight goes a slightly different way than normal when Gertner ending up suffering a barrage of kendo sticks attacks from Hyatt and the Sandman. Stevie Richards then instructs Hyatt to denounce the Sandman in order for the lawsuit he has on her to be dropped. Sandman responds by hitting Hyatt with the kendo stick. Before the next match can start, we hear from Taz, who upon learning of Van Dam's choice of tag partner, tells both him and Sabu they will be suffering a beatdown soon enough. And this replays throughout the show with Taz constantly popping up, putting over the fact of how angry he is that Van Dam has chosen Sabu. Next, we get the match between Devon Storm and Louise Piccoli. There's some good action in this match, with Piccoli dealing out a beating for the most part. It ends with Piccoli giving Storm what Styles calls a fireman buster, but would later be known as the Death Valley Driver. We now come to the match between Taz and Tommy Dreamer, but first Taz has something to say and some bad news to relay. Taz tells the crowd that despite Dreamer's usual extreme techniques, they'll see none of that as Dreamer is about to be out-wrestled by Taz. During the match itself, Styles makes constant references as to how angry Taz is about the situation between himself, Van Dam and Sabu.
Kieran, is this where I come in and do some play-by-play?
It is indeed.
Okay. Chris, is this right? I don't know. We're making this up as we go along.
Yes,
right.
It is.
Okay.
Sorry, Bob. Yes.
It's all right. Back in. I love this show. It's great. We need more shows. We've just got no idea what's going on. Right. Here we go. Taz with, what's his name? Bill Alfonso versus Tommy Dreamer.
I got some bad news for you people. I got some very bad news. You see, every time Dreamer comes out here and wrestles someone, he's breaking tables, breaking chairs, busting his ass on somebody's crutches, busting somebody's ass on a pole. Well, I'll tell you what, you people are not even going to see a chair shot. You're not going to see a table break. You ain't going to see the only thing you're going to get to see is Tommy Dreamer get out wrestled by the human suplex machine. So Dreamer, get your ass out here so I can stretch you.
Taz opens up by slamming Dreamer into the guardrail, and again. Back in the ring, he runs at him, but Tommy hits a drop toe hold and a hip toss. Dreamer is fairing his arm. Fans chant, "Fuck him up, Dreamer, fuck him up." Get a bit of chain wrestling. Taz goes for the arm, though I think it's the wrong one. Dreamer comes off the ropes, slides between Taz's legs and pokes him in the bollocks. Tommy hits a belly to back. It looks like he's out on his arse here. Taz goes for a leg lace and a chin lock. Alfonso is going fucking nuts with his whistle. We see that Tommy has taped ribs. Taz hits a T-bone suplex. He then does a lovely reverse bow and arrow with a bridge. Taz's entourage hold Dreamer on the guardrail and Taz hits him with a chair. Dreamer rallies, hits a bulldog onto the chair. Dreamer covers Taz, who gets his foot on the ropes. Taz goes for a buddy-to-buddy from the second rope. Tommy pushes him off, goes to the top, then does a dive onto Team Taz, all 5 of them on the floor. Then a table gets introduced. Tommy props up the table on the apron, then does the baseball slide onto it, flattening Team Taz. He then goes to the other side and baseball slides into Alfonso, who's holding a chair by his face. Taz takes control with a German suplex. He gets a chair. The referee takes it off of him, so Taz hits a T-bone suplex on him too. Taz props up a table in the corner, then does a belly-to-belly suplex, putting Tommy through it. Fans chant ECW, and now I'll take you back to the recording edit of this show. Tommy recovers quite quickly, goes for a DDT, but Taz counters and locks in a Taz mission. The ref is out, so this basically ends up as a no contest. Beulah climbs in the ring, begs him to stop, but Alfonso pushes her into the corner and grabs a chair. Right on cue, here's Terry Gordy. The Eliminators follow out in hot pursuit and take out Gordy. Primetime Brian Lee then puts the Adriatic Spike onto Gordy. The Eliminators start eliminating everyone, jobbers, referees, bad crew, everyone. Out comes Bubba Ray. He rallies, but then walks straight into a massive choke slam from Brian Lee. Now Dudley takes a total elimination. Out comes Hack Myers. He takes on all 4 of them, but runs into a suplex from Taz for getting a total elimination of his own. Chris, just the usual ECW chaos after, I thought, a quite decent match.
See, we'll sort of do this in 2 parts. Obviously, we've got the match, which was really, really good, sort of actual wrestling match. There's a bit of hardcore in there, which you'd expect, obviously, with the tables getting used. But you've got Taz lobbing Tommy around with perfect suplexes. You've got Dreamer with an amazing babyface comeback. And then you get the ECW aspect of just everyone in and the Eliminators hitting some picture perfect, awesome total eliminations on anyone that moves. Welcome to ECW.
Kieran.
Oh, I bloody love this, I do. I think this is easily, like, if there's a quintessential feud that I'd want to see for, like, ever, I know it won't go forever because that'd be daft, but it'd be Tommy Dreamer and Taz. Because like Chris said, Tommy Dreamer is just that perfect baby face. He's the perfect baby face for ECW as well. And you got Taz, who's just like this, he's just like a fucking wrecking machine. He's so good. I think it was was it the T-bone one? I can't, anyway, any of his suplexes you could pick out. And then at the end you get a brawl, which I don't mind, I've got used to over the couple of years I've been doing ECW. And then I get my favourite finisher, which is a total elimination. So I just loved all of it, Bob.
Yeah, the match was really nice. It feels weird talking about wrestling and praising a match for staying predominantly in the ring. But when we're covering ECW, we kind of have to because that's not a given. But this was by and large in the ring, and it never really spilled outside for very long with both of them. Dreamer went out at one point, and Taz did attacking against the guardrail once or twice. But a 70-80% in-ring match is quite high for ECW. And the action in the ring was good. And it's nice to see, a match where one guy is going in suffering. You don't often see that very much in either of the big 2 promotions. And Taz likely beat the piss out of him. Dreamer clung on. No, okay, we didn't get finished, but in ECW finishes mean less and less. And then just your usual chaos. Just one guy after another, just, it got the crowd excited. You were there in person, that's a fun thing to see. I don't know, it's weird. We're usually reviewing that kind of a final match late in the show, having seen a lot more beforehand. So I don't know whether we're just more positive because this is 15 minutes into the show, into this recording, and this is like one of the main event of the first telly. But this worked, I think. Chris, any more?
No, I think between the 2 of you've pretty much covered everything.
Excellent. Kieran, back to you for the next lot of TVs.
So we cut to the 10th of September, 96. We open, as always, short recap of last week's TV. And then it's straight onto the aftermath of this beatdown where Terry Gordy is being loaded onto a stretcher with damage control in tow. We then go to Joey Styles, who then relays Gordy's current plight and part of the story of how Terry came into ECW. Gives it a nice bit of background, I thought, this bit, Bob. So basically Joey Styles is going through telling you you know, the injuries that Gordy suffered, what it's taken for him to get here, sort of trying to get the guy over, which I thought was really good. We now go to the no rules bad street match between Gordy and Brian Lee. Unfortunately, after this decent build that Joey Styles gives Gordy, it's just the standard ECW brawl, which is kind of be expected when it's a no rules bad street match. We go all around the massive ECW arena. The match ends when Gordy pins Lee with his Asiatic spike submission move. Again, Styles after match tried to get us back into the mind of Gordy and how the beatdown of last week affected Gordy's state of mind. Again, trying to build the guy up, really good.
Which is quite hard with this one, is because obviously this match was in this show, Natural Born Killers, before the Taz thing at the end. So obviously he won this match before the brawl at the end.
Right.
Which, you know, when you put it into TV the week behind, it does sort of not really help fulfill a story.
Basically, what I think we need to do, we all need to get PhDs to watch ECW then, don't we? Again, Styles tries to get us into the mind of Gordy and how the beatdown of last week would have affected Gordy's state of mind. We then cut to Tommy Dreamer calling out the Eliminators and Brian Lee and challenging them to a 6-man tag with him, Gordy and Dr. F. Steve Williams. Crowd gives a massive pop for this announcement from Dreamer. The main match of the episode is next and pits Bubba Ray, Big Dick Dudley against Devon and Axel Rotten. As one might guess, again, this is a brawl from the outset and again goes all over the massive arena. The finish comes when Devon inadvertently hits his partner with a chair and Bubba gets the cover. After the match, the teams still go at it somewhat and we even get an altercation between the team, quote-unquote, of Rotten and Devon. We then go to highlights and recap of the situation between the Sandman and Raven.
Inside this woman's body began the constant evolution of the Sandman's successor. For 9 months, she gave from her own body the nurturing that this helpless, dependent being growing inside her body needed. And from this womb begat an heir, a male heir, to the Fullington lineage. A living, breathing embodiment of the Sandman's immortality. The blood of his blood, the flesh of his flesh, the continuation of his chromosomes, of the bloodline of the Fullington family name. And as his heritage was passed down to him by his father James, who was entrusted with the continuance of the family name by his father David, and his father before him, and his father before him. Unlike me, I was disowned by my family, denied my birthright, and forced to create my own existence from my own personal turmoil. This woman created life, but fate determined it would not be to me, but to another. And so it was written, and so it came to pass that James and Lori Fullington would have a son, Tyler, and he would be given the inalienable right and the undeniable privilege to have bestowed upon him parents that wanted him. No matter how hateful, how vicious, how violent, and how irreparable the differences between them are, the bond between a father and a son can never be broken.
Until now.
We head to promo with Raven and Laurie Fullington. Raven talks about the birth of the heir to Sandman's heritage and how he had to find his own path. The ultimate goal for Raven seems to be to sever the ties between Sandman and his son Tyler. A really effective Raven promo once again with there's some overly creepy vibes to these, which at the running like a really fine line between it becoming a bit jokey and, trying to keep it sort of real, quote unquote. But at the minute, I think it's working really well with this Tyler Fullington stuff. We then get a recap from Styles about Sabu and Van Damme teaming up. Promo from Shane Douglas and the lovely Francine. Also in tow, special guest, that being Gary Wolf's physical therapist, apparently. This therapist is all business and no personality. He's about as edgy as a Satsuma. Douglas continues to take shots at the pit bull by stating he can't even doggy paddle in the pool. We end with promos from Alfonso, Bubba Ray and Shane Douglas with clips of Gary Wolf in his neck brace. Random is random. Right at the end, we also get Divine Brown, who people may remember, I think, was sucking off Hugh Grant or something like that. And she's telling us she isn't even as hardcore as ECW.
Straight on to the next, Kieran, I think.
We then go to the next TV, 17th of September 1996. We open with highlights and a recap of Raven and Sandman feud, including Tyler in an eerie rendition of Raven's pose. Again, reiterate, this is really good for me at the minute. It's sort of like got this kind of scary, creepy, haunted child vibe to it. We get a video of Tyler Fullington's 7th birthday party. Again, some really good stuff in here when Raven sort of flips out. The blue meanie, trying to act as like the clown of the party, the entertainment, quote unquote, probably not so good. And we get highlights of the Gangsters and Eliminators cage match and interference from Shane Douglas.
Shane Douglas, we ain't forgot about you. You know what the Gangsters all about. You done seen what we done to people, and you know what we can do to people. The three fingers, they gonna get broke when you least expect it. Me and Mustafa gonna grab that pretty little face of yours, boy, and we gonna put you through a meat grinder. You understand? When you coming through an airport, you better watch your back. When you getting on a plane, you better watch your back. When you get in your bed, you better get on your knees and peep up under the bed to make sure me and Mustafa ain't laying up under there. We gonna get you, you little pretty Samoan Gangsters. We gonna give you your props. You came to the show all cut up, stitches, bandaged up, but you had nuts enough to get in the ring with us. We gonna give you a title shot. The first chance we get, we gonna give you a title shot. Because we gonna give you props. You deserve a title shot. But when we give it to you, bet it up. You're going down. We gonna kick your ass again. Boing.
We'll then get a street level promo from the Gangsters who tell Douglas that they haven't forgotten about him after his interference in that cage match and that he better be watching his back at all times. We also learn that the Gangsters are giving the Samoan Suicide Party a title shot when they are ready to go. We get a recap of the Piccoli-Douglas TV title match from When Worlds Collide. Match is a close one, but Douglas prevails over Louis with a belly-to-belly suplex after interference from Francine. We end with an after-match promo from Douglas from Francine. It begins, however, with an argument over who will actually conduct the interview between Lance Wright and Joel Gertner. Lance Wright attacks Gertner, but Douglas intervenes and attacks Wright with a full Nelson. Help then comes in the form of Pitbull 2. We go off the air with Joey Styles screaming for a stretcher for his friend Lance Wright.
Weren't we going to do the match review with Shane and Piccoli? Did you not have a play-for-play for that?
Well, I've got that, but I was going to... ladies and welcome to how hodgepodge this show is. Kieran, that was on this show, right?
Yes. They showed the whole match.
I was going to say, it was less about Kieran not teaming me up, more about the fact he just didn't seem to mention it. But Kieran, this is on this show, correct?
Because he mentions it, he sort of goes... He said that he won by the belly-to-belly and then sort of went straight into the end.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, fuck's sake.
It's all right. This is staying in. Over to me for the match review of Louis Piccoli versus Shane Douglas from When Worlds Collide.
I need a drink.
Yeah, me too. Right, Louis Piccoli versus Shane Douglas with Francine for the ECW World TV title. Shane gets given a pink Shawn Michaels tee. He spits on it and throws it back. They throw it back and, well, it just disappears. We get a lot of story. Douglas eventually tells the fans to sit down and shut the fuck up. Douglas eventually gets angry enough to want to leave. Piccoli tells him on the mic he's going to kick the fuck out of him, and then Douglas comes back. Usual wrestling 101. Heel threatens to leave. Babyface says something pithy, and heel goes, all right, I'll come back. Piccoli gets on top. Douglas scarpers to the outside and then calls for a timeout. Fans chant little dick at Douglas and she's a whore at Francine. I think they then start a little Shane has got no balls doodah chant.
They do. It's the one thing the ECW fans do have is great wit with their banter.
Yeah. I'd love to see that in your house thing. Oh.
Yeah. Little Undertaker's got no balls. Yeah. It's all Piccoli, so Douglas hits a low blow and a reverse atomic drop. He rallies out of a headlock submission and nearly gets it with a roll-up. Piccoli hits a neck breaker, and that looked great for a near fall. Francine jumps on the apron to goad Piccoli. He goes after her, but Douglas hits a nice baseball slide off with a distraction. Douglas attacks on the outside, dumps Piccoli into the fans, then goes onto the turnbuckle, and hits a nice crossbody over the guardrail to the floor. Piccoli recovers and dumps a chair over Douglas's head. Franz chants, she's got herpes, loudly at Francine. Douglas goes for a tombstone. Piccoli reverses, but cannot rotate it, so Douglas basically ends up lying on top of him. Piccoli hits a lovely spine buster for a real nice near fall, then a Northern Lights suplex for another near fall. Douglas has got the market cornered for kicking out late tonight. Piccoli sets to the Death Valley driver. Douglas grabs the ropes as Piccoli just dumps him to the outside. We go to the outside. Piccoli props the table up against the guardrail, but Douglas slams him headfirst into it. Back in the ring, Piccoli goes for a Death Valley driver. Francine jumps in the ring and enables Douglas to hit a neck breaker. They're selling Piccoli has a neck injury. Douglas then hits a belly-to-belly suplex, and that's enough to retain the title in apparently 19 minutes. Match ends with Piccoli being attended to by medics and ring crew. Chris?
This reminds me of why we were loving Shane Douglas before he went and was torn apart as Dean Douglas. This was Shane back to his pre-WWF best. And the crowd was so hot with their hate for him, their hate for Francine, and against Louise Piccoli, who's not been about for very long. They sort of were into the match all the way through and sort of actually cared, which is something that you can't always say for the ECW crowds. In the ring, again, as I said, Douglas back to his best, and Piccoli, I don't know how long he's been about or where he's come from before his ECW run, but I haven't seen anything but good from him, and he continues to impress every time, so I would quite happily see him kicking around for a bit longer.
Kieran?
Yeah, very good. Like Chris said, it's just back to his best. The stalling at the beginning, he gets massive heat. He gets in the ring. Shane Douglas is class. His promos are class. Everything about the guy is class. Piccoli is a bit of a revelation, like Chris said. He seems to have come out of nowhere. And unlike other people who have come in that we've seen before, Bob, on ECW TV, the crowd doesn't jump on Piccoli straight away, maybe because he's so good. There's nothing overtly gimmicky about his character. So it's obviously, I think it's more to do with them really hating Douglas than them actually buying into Piccoli, but I think there's enough we've seen from Piccoli that they can buy into later on. But overall, just really enjoyed this match again, but like I said, Douglas is just class.
Yeah, this is just about the best Shane, other than the Douglas ripping those really, really good promos a couple of years ago, this is probably the best version of Shane Douglas we've seen. Comes out, gets a lot of heat, and, in ECW that ain't always easy, as we know. And I've been on and off ECW shows this year, but I'm a big fan of how Douglas has pivoted from when he returned in January and didn't get Chris, I don't recall him getting a massive hero's welcome, but he came back as a babyface, and for a while he was kind of the face of ECW, rallying against everyone else, wasn't he? Was that right?
Well, there was the whole thing with him and Foley when he first came back, and then he turned on Cactus Jack, and then obviously we've had this thing against the Pitbulls, so the Pitbulls have become an ECW stalwart and favourites. So he sort of automatically got heat from that, and it's been since he's had Francine and the breaking of the neck. It's
just it's nuclear, isn't it? The heat.
He's rocketed.
But this was a really, really fun match to watch. I agree about Piccoli, like, you know, in a room full of gimmicks, he's quite gimmickless. But that's kind of the point, is that he's just a bit of a bruiser. And him and Douglas mesh really, really well here. This is the kind of match I really enjoy. Just two guys that are just going to hit each other. There's a real nice balance, a lot of heat, which helps. And yeah, 2 big thumbs up from me. Kieran, any more? I know we said a lot, but
well, just extra points for the crowd chants. You know, whores, herpes, and plenty of hate.
Yeah,
can't go wrong.
Chris, any more?
I feel we've covered it well, and as I said, it's on the TV. Go out of your way to watch this.
Yeah, do it.
Excellent. Right, Kieran, show number 4. I think we've got 2 matches that I've got play-by-play for, so if you want to tee me up when they come round, then I can take us through it. I think we've got 2. We've definitely got one.
There's Sandman Devon, Gangsters FBI, and then the tag match.
Well, I don't have Gangsters and FBI, but I've got the other 2. So, Chris, have you seen the Gangsters FBI thing, or is that just a segment, isn't it?
It's basically the gangsters come in and start smacking people with the usual level of shit that they come to the ring with.
This show is basically just one long production meeting, folks. This is what we normally sort out long before showtime.
Which tag match was it?
Sabu, RVD, Furnas, the Prophet.
Good God!
You mean like the really, really good tag match, Kieran? Which tag match was it? Right, yeah. Kieran, over to you. Tee me up for the Sandman match and the tag match, and Chris can say a few things about the other one in the middle.
Okay, for the last TV of the month, Bob, we get a recap straight away of the Devon Storm versus Sandman from When Worlds Collide match. So, there you go.
Over to me. There we go, straight away. Okay. Right, we're introduced to Julio Cesar Valentino Alfonso, a manager and first cousin of Bill Alfonso. God bloody hell! Reuniting the Bad Crew and Dangerous Devon Storm. Kieran, did this bit air on TV? Because I'm going off my When Worlds Collide notes.
It did.
Yeah. Right. Okay. This will make sense to people listening then. Reuniting the Bad Crew and Dangerous Devon Storm. Storm gets the fun of facing Sandman. So here we go. It's Dangerous Devon Storm with Bad Crew and Julio Cesar Valentino Alfonso versus the Sandman. Storm starts with a somersault planche of the Sandman on the outside. He follows that with some cane shots. Bad Crew gets some shots in too. It's basically 3-on-1. Bad Crew sits Sandman on a chair on the outside. Storm hits a running elbow off the apron, taking Sandman down. Storm takes his time getting on the top rope. As he comes off of it, Sandman catches him with a cane shot and then just starts swinging. 4-on-1 numbers game eventually catches up with him. Storm returns to the top and hits a lovely moonsault. Alfonso goes to make the count, but Sandman just picks up a cane and smacks him with it. Then he goes berserk, a cane shot, a DDT, and Sandman pins Storm as the referee comes to. Kieran?
Sandman's really over still. That's my first note. There's not much else in the match. There's a couple of good moves by Devon Storm, but again, because it's Sandman, I'm already kind of bored before the match starts. But like I said, the guy's still over, Bob. You can't argue with that. But overall, I didn't really enjoy this match.
Chris?
It is Sandman being Sandman. He has a bit of a hiding. He comes back and he batters people with the cane. And Julio Alfonso, that cane shot he takes to his ear when he's there doing the pin, ouch. That really did not look like that was a pleasant one. I did love the fact that he did turn it into a 3-on-1 handicap match and pinned all of them by hitting them all with DDTs after, in pinning everyone in turn. So does he get 3 winners checks for that?
I'd be surprised if he gets 1, knowing ECW, but yeah. Kieran, I think we're back to you. I don't have much more to add other than to say it's the usual Sandman stuff. It's quite fun. I can't imagine it's great getting hit by cane shots, but if you're willing to do it, I'll more than happily watch it.
All right. You're into that, Bob. Anyway, so we get highlights of Gary Wolf's injury angle, including promos by Douglas and Francine and the Pitbulls again. We then get a recap of the FBI versus Gangsters from Wells Collide tag match. We then get a recap of the Sabu Van Damme versus Furnas and Crawford match. I think we're going to talk about that, Bob.
A recap, I assume you see it in full, right?
It is in full.
Yes.
Right, okay, yeah. I'm back up. Here we go. It's Doug Furnas and Dan Crawford versus Sabu and Rob Van Dam. Chris, the story, I had for once we're not running that long. So a little segue. I had a little thing, about the logic of Van Dam asking Sabu to be his partner. I know this played out in August. It all felt a bit weak to me. Like, Sabu's never been a great one for tag teams. We don't see that a lot. It doesn't really make sense for him to accept it. And why would Van Dam ask? I'm guessing, as someone who's listened to the ECW show but not seen all of that, I'm guessing Van Dam, and I know that he had, he needed an opponent a tag team opponent for those two. But Chris, can you try and fill in the logic as to why Sabu will be his partner?
So it all starts from that initial bit where Sandman and RVD had the match, and Sandman and RVD wouldn't shake Sabu's hand. Basically, they then had the respect match, which ended up with the stretchers, and obviously at that point, RVD learned respect from Sabu, and because he now has respect from Sabu. When Furnas refused to shake his hand after the match and showed him no respect, he went to the person that taught him respect. And as such, we have this tag team partnership. That is...
Okay, so that's a good explanation as to why RVD asked. Did they ever fill in the point of where Sabu said yes?
No.
He's mental, Bob. He's mental.
Well, that's true.
There is that, he is unhinged. But... in real terms, there was never a definitive showing of why Sabu has said yes. The only thing we see is obviously earlier in the month when RVD goes to Paul Heyman and goes, I'm going to tag with your boy, you've got to make him fucking do it. And that seems to be good enough.
And I think they've tried to flesh it out a bit more, Bob, by trying to factor in Taz as well into the story about how pissed off he is that Van Dam went to Sabu. I don't know whether that's going to go anywhere. I hope it does, and we get some three-way or something down the line. But there's that to factor in as well.
There's big matches with both of those guys. And I think at the end we'll talk about prospects in November to remember, and I'm assuming that's Taz versus Sabu. But right, match review time. Sorry, Chris, you have something to say?
I was just going to say, obviously the Taz thing has just come out of the fact of Taz and Sabu, or Sabu won't fight Taz, so... there's that whole, he has no respect for anyone else, so why would he have respect for RVD? Yeah. But again, this is ECW. Logic doesn't always have to dictate any reason or rhyme.
Doesn't always dictate. We start with actual tag rules and a clean break. Van Dam provokes Furnas, so Furnas lathers him with a lariat. Hits a running uppercut that sends Van Dam to the outside. Sabu tags in, hits a spin kick on Crawford, and then a baseball slide. Van Dam lobs Sabu a chair, who unfolds it and does his triple dump off the top rope before hitting a double axe handle. Furnas locks in a horrid-looking vertical Boston crab as... I don't know what happened there, some kind of boiler. Horrible-looking vertical Boston crab. Sabu gets to the ropes. Sabu comes off the ropes with a big clothesline. Sabu and Van Dam are working together pretty well. Furnas hits a slam on Van Dam. Van Dam tags in Sabu by slapping him in the chest. I may have spoken too soon about them going together pretty well. Crawford does a lovely roll into a leg lock, so he recovers, unfolds the tear, does the triple jump, pirouettes on the top rope, and then does an elbow drop back onto Furnas in the middle of the ring. Then it's an Arabian face buster for a 2. Van Dam doesn't want the tag. Crawford takes advantage. Van Dam gets in, but Crawford and Furnas double team in. With Furnas and Crawford on the outside, Sabu slaps Van Dam twice, offers out the handshake, then uses that to propel him over the top rope onto the pair. That was really nice. Sabu really slaps good. Van Dam, offers out the handshake. Van Dam kind of puts his art there, Sandman. Sabu grabs him and just yanks him over the top rope. That worked really well. Crawford bridges a lovely double unhook submission. Sabu counters a butterfly suplex into a backdrop, but cannot get tagged as Furnas hits a belly-to-belly. Sabu hits a Hurricane Rana from the top. Crawford barely even needs 2 to kick out and hit a lovely belly-to-back suplex. Van Damme hits a standing moonsault for a 2, then hits a guillotine leg drop onto Furnas. Lays him on a table, laying across the ring and the guardrail. Van Damme tells Sabu to go and get him. Sabu goes for a triple jump splash. Sabu slips on the ropes and crotches himself. Joey is trying to convince us that Van Damme shook the ropes. If you say so, Joey. Replay sort of showed that. Van Damme puts Furnas through a table, then Crawford takes out Sabu, and there are bodies everywhere. Furnas runs into a big boot. Van Damme hits a split-legged moonsault, but only for 2. Van Damme hits a double underhook face buster. Van Damme turns his back to Furnas and hits a release German suplex that Van Damme flips all the way over him. Crawford hits a tiger driver onto a chair on Van Damme. Sabu hits a big splash off the top to break up the pin. Sabu hits triple jump moonsault for a 2 and gets hit with a Frankenstein, which Van Damme has to break up the pin of. Crawford smashes a chair off of Van Damme's back and hits a belly-to-back suplex from the second rope. Joey infers that as a Tazplex, which is a bit of a stretch, but the idea being that Sabu is stealing Taz's moves. Crawford locks in a rear naked choke. That's a bit more overt. Furnas puts Sabu in an electric chair. Crawford clotheslines him off, but Van Damme breaks up the pin. Sabu leathers Crawford with a chair, then hits an Arabian face buster, still a 2. Sabu hits another pirouette triple jump elbow drop. Van Damme hits a leg drop for a 2. How is this match still going? Van Damme hits them both with chairs. He and Sabu then have a disagreement. Crawford hits a big super kick for a 2. Van Damme hits a split-legged moonsault also for a 2. Van Damme hits a splash from the top, still a 2. A German suplex on Van Damme, a 2. A belly-to-back suplex on Sabu by Crawford. 1, 2, the bell rings and the time has run out. 30-minute time limit draw. I believe the edit that made TV was cut a bit shorter to edit out some of Sabu's fuck-ups, but I was able to see them all. Chris, what do you think about this?
This was an amazing match. For 4 very different styles of wrestler, this really, really gelled really well. You've got RVD doing all of his flip-de-doo moves that he can attempt to get out. You've got Sabu doing new things like the triple jump back elbow. That just came out of nowhere. You've got Furnas and Crawford, who just seem to like to hit people and throw them around, which I'm always got time for that as a lover of the Steiner brothers. And, you know, all of it together works so well. The story of the match, you know, both of them trying new things, trying sort of upping each other every time, but yet every time the kickouts, you know, not being enough. I think worked really, really well. And the fact it went to a time limit draw does well for all 4 of them because it shows that they're all tough. You know, it gives that sort of, that sense of realism that, you know, these guys can take a licking.
Kieran?
It was absolutely brilliant. It's probably one of the best. I know I've just seen it and I've watched some other, but this is easily the best tag match I've seen in all my time watching ECW. Like Chris said, all 4 completely different guys. Sabu pulling out, that guy is they're just him and Van Damme are machines. And then Furnas really impressed me. I didn't know much about the other 2 at all. And they were so good. It's so rare that you get like a tag match where all 4 people actually bring something to the match, but something like legitimately excellent.
Well, and something different. They're all, even Furnas and Crawford, even guys that worked a lot in Japan, are very different workers. And Sabu and Van Damme, we know, are very different workers.
It's like the other 2 were so like stiff. Everything just felt like hard hitting and real, unlike other ECW type hardcore brawl matches. We get a good mixture when they do the wrestling and they mix up with the hardcore. It's like this is when this promotion it just blows your mind about what. And this is where I always come back to my point when I'm watching it, is when ECW transcends, and it seems like it's out of time with the other promotions. Do you know what I mean? It's when it does matches like this, it's so far ahead, it's not even funny of the other 2 when it's doing matches like this. When they do their standard stuff, it can get a bit sort of boring and pedestrian. But then they do stuff like this, it's amazing. You made reference to like some of the psychology, Bob, or like the stiffer tags or using the different tags. There was some really good psychology between Van Damme and Sabu. It's like, look, we don't like each other, mate, but we're going to have to get on with it because we've got a match to win. And I always love that sort of stuff. It's kind of a trope for, putting enemies together in a tag match. But if it's done well, it works really well and it adds another layer to the match. And I'll just reiterate what Chris said about the ending. Perfect ending because all four guys looked absolutely fucked at the end. And it was just a brilliant, brilliant match.
Yeah, I mean, there's far too many things wrong with this match for it to be a 5-star match, but I thought it was fucking brilliant. Just four guys that all offered something different, all doing, all working their own skills in an environment that made sense. We see so many tag match brawls. It's great to see ECW just having a real fun fucking tag match. All four of these guys are excellent. Let's say that. Sabu fucked up quite a bit, but that's Sabu. That's kind of part of the gimmick.
You have to expect it when the sort of stuff that he does.
Yeah, exactly. And to a point, like if he nailed everything, it'd be a bit weird. Like doesn't that kind of, I think it helps. Like if Sabu's it's the Mankind thing. If Sabu's willing to risk himself, it kind of helps that it's a bit out of control.
You can't be that hard on the guy, Bob, can you? When he's sort of like putting his literally like. It's a good comparison. I've never heard that comparison before, but it's perfect with Mankind.
Sabu and Cactus Jack, all that.
Oh God! Oh, yeah.
Very different styles. They both dice with death on a regular basis inside a wrestling ring or outside. But yeah, there are plenty of problems with this match. One, you can kind of tell it in my notes. There becomes a point where, this match should have ended by now, not for a time perspective, just because they beat the fuck out of each other. Like at some point, you've got to hit a ceiling at some point, otherwise what is everything else? But with that in mind, this is a really fun match, like a match that I would urge you to go out your way to see, just because it's not the kind of match I think we're going to see anywhere else anytime soon. This isn't a Rey Mysterio Psychosis type deal where it's like, well, it's really good here, but you put this in WCW, it'll be about 80% as good. You won't see this kind of match in WCW. You definitely will. You're not going to see the Smoking Guns and the Goldwings have a match like this.
No.
It's the same genre of stuff.
Let them try.
Well, don't. But I really like this match. As I said, there's a lot going against it. A lot of people calling it like 3.5 stars, and they're probably right. But it's a. Look, the whole star rating thing's overrated anyway. It's all about perfect matches.
Yeah, I'll give the rating system 3.5 out of 5.
Well, yeah, but I think they might be right, grading on that kind of scale where it's all about drama and storytelling and perfect moves and doing everything right and that kind of thing. There's a lot going against it, but as a fun fucking match, this is right up there. Chris, any more?
As I say, the only place I would imagine you would see anything that comes close to this would be Japan.
Exactly. Well, that's because that's the game. Crawford and Furnas is it New Japan, Chris? Is that right?
Yeah, they're in New Japan. So obviously, if you can do the tape trading and get yourself some New Japan and All Japan stuff, fill your boots. This is what you'll get regularly. But for an American audience, you ain't getting this anywhere else.
Nope.
No, I'd agree with that. Kieran, anything else on TV?
Yeah, we get another weird couple of promos by Dreamer and Raven. Basically, Dreamer was another bizarre one to go along with like the Raven one where he was talking to Sandman about his legacy and his severing ties with his son. The Dreamer one, we got Beulah standing behind Dreamer and then dripping candle wax. So, yeah. And then it appears Dreamer's got glass in his fist. I mean, these promos are really effective. It's just strange how I don't sort of call bullshit on them, or you don't think they look a bit hokey. I think it's because the guys are so good in this promotion with these promos that they just come off as effective. It's like you take your first look at it, like with the Raven one and this Dreamer one, and you think, well, what the bloody hell? Candle wax on the back? Is it some sort of kinky thing? But no, it's all about the pain is pleasure type thing, which is something that both Sandman, Raven and Dreamer all seem to be sort of driving home, is this pain is pleasure type angle. So a really weird promo to end, but weird but effective.
Chris, anything to input on that? Because I haven't seen the last two TVs of the matches. Anything to input on that or anything?
The only thing I can think of with that is obviously they are looking at maybe putting Raven with Tommy again for a little while to sort of not have him against Sandman as much. But the thing is, Raven is the key of two very, very different but very, very important and personal storylines in ECW at the minute. Because obviously he has his kid with Sandman, and the Raven Tommy Dreamer storyline goes back to them being kids at camp, and it's been going on for a while now, and it still hasn't been resolved. So,
sorry, Chris.
It's one of those of this is clearly, what is best about Raven is that he can still have multiple storylines with multiple people.
And he can keep you engaged in all of them, Chris, as well.
Yeah.
That's it. That's his. It is. I'm not going to sound melodramatic or whatever, but it's the way he engages you. It's just like it's amazing what Raven can do with, sort of his promos and that. He's like I said, he's got these two major storylines. I mean, how long's the Dream one been going on now?
January 95.
Yes, I was going to say, it's at least a year and a half.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. Continuing the theme of the on-air production meeting, have we all seen Johnny Smith and Taz?
We have.
Yes.
Kieran?
Yes.
With apologies for next month's show, when this inevitably appears on Hardcore TV, shall we review it?
Go on then.
We shall.
Let's do it. I've got some match notes. Let's do it. Right, this was on When Worlds Collide. It may be on TV next month. I don't know. It's Johnny Smith. Chris, do we know who Johnny Smith is?
Johnny Smith first appeared last month. He has come from All Japan, but I would imagine he has got some British background because of how his style is. But
and
other than
called Johnny Smith,
yeah, that helps as well.
That's kind of the giveaway.
It's the standard British World of Sport Wrestling name.
Oh, God. There we go. It's Johnny Smith versus Taz with Bill Alfonso. We get lots of whistling from Alfonso. Some even exchanges. Taz offers out a handshake and it's accepted. Smith hits the slap and that livens up Taz. Smith gets a headlock, then a shoulder block. Taz regroups on the floor with Alfonso. Johnny Smith goes for one leapfrog too many. Taz hits a release German suplex and Smith lands on his shoulder and his neck. That fucking whistle is just a line in my notes.
Bob, I don't want to freak you out, but I've got the exact same 3 words.
There we go.
That fucking whistle.
Taz goes for a hammerlock. Smith goes to throw a shot. Taz counters with an arm lock into an arm bar. We get a close-up of Alfonso talking us through the action and the logic behind the arm bar. Alfonso is great, is another line in my notes. That was really good. Smith hits a German suplex for a 2, then a top rope drop kick, but he runs into a T-bone Tazplex, then the Tasmission, and that's all over. Taz grabs the mic, says he respects Smith and that he releases hold early. They shake hands. He respects Smith. I like Sabu, of course. And the final line of my notes just simply reads, Alfonso is just an annoying prick. Chris?
Fonzie, our heel of the year, is still at it being an annoying little shit.
Could win it again. It'd be more difficult this time, but he'd be in the running.
The thing is, this year he hasn't had the promos as much as he did last year, but that fucking whistle.
Oh, that fucking whistle!
It's been pretty much, a standard for ECW this whole year.
The intro to this show is just going to be a minute of Bill Alfonso whistling. That's all it's going to be. If ever this show needed an intro like this is the show to do it.
But as for the match, it was a clinic of wrestling, which again, as we've said before, when ECW does the wrestling part properly, it's better than any of the other feds, hands down, because it lets wrestlers wrestle.
You know, the one thing ECW does really well, and to an extent they can do it better than the other two just because of the way it works. But one thing I've always loved about ECW, and it's not something that WWF and WCW cannot do, they really could if they wanted to, is ECW are very good, and it helps with the audience, at just establishing guys out of the gate as threats. In WWF, you've got to bring a guy in, you've got to get him on TV for a few months, have him win squash matches. In WCW, a similar kind of thing. ECW, here comes the guy, he's wrestled in Japan, he's good, put him in the ring. People buy him as a threat. And to an extent it works because they're in front of an audience that largely probably know who he is, who heard of him. That's part of the problem that the bigger guys have got. But I remember when Sabu was at his height in 94, and Paulie Dangerously was cutting a promo about his program with Benoit, and this was before we really knew who Benoit was. He had been on TV a couple of months, didn't speak, hadn't seen much of him in the ring. And Heyman said on the mic, Benoit is as tough a challenge as Sabu will ever face. And it helps because Heyman's got, even as a heel, he's got credibility. You know, Jim Cornette saying that on Raw, people were like, oh, it's Jim Cornette, he's a heel. Heyman, at least in a heel role, had credibility. And he said Benoit is probably the toughest challenge he will ever face. Go back and listen to our 94 ECW shows, you'll hear that promo in amongst all the others. And it's like, great, I now understand that Chris Benoit is a threat. And it works. And Johnny Smith comes in. I don't know anything about him, but within 2 minutes of the presentation, Joey Styles tells me Johnny Smith is a guy. Taz wrestles Johnny Smith differently. And within a couple of minutes, we're like, okay, this is an even match, an even threat. It's that small little stuff, Chris, that just really, really helps. And it's not something that is easy for the other two to do, but both promotions could certainly do it.
Well, Johnny Smith first turned up last month, and he had a sort of really good hard wrestling match with Piccoli, and it shone a light on both of them, and it was sort of one of those of a very sort of lucky pin got the win. So obviously anyone that was at the ECW arena the month before, which as we all know, the majority of them are repeat offenders in there, they would have seen that match. Well, you know, you've got the same people in the same places with the same weapons.
I believe they call them repeat customers, or you might call them fans. But I don't know if I call them repeat offenders.
Is this a shoot promo, Chris? What's this all about?
Well, unfortunately, I'm repeat offenders, but as a collective, that's a very, very sweeping generalisation.
Well, so, yes, anywho.
No. I need to try and prepare more often.
So, yeah, they would have obviously seen him from the month before and know of how good of a wrestler he was. So, obviously putting him in with Taz, who we all know how good he can be, you know, it worked really, really well. And, again, I will quite happily watch these two go at it again.
Kieran.
Yeah, I'll have another match between these two. Again, to sort of elaborate on what you were saying, Bob, about here comes a new guy. We've always said that Heyman has this ability, no matter who they seem to lose. There was a kind of a one pay-per-view, maybe two not pay-per-views, but two events where the roster was looking a bit, which way is it going to go if they leave, Guerrero and that left. Heyman has this innate ability, Bob, to be able to bring guys in, and not just any guys like the other feds do. He seems to be able to bring in the right guys and fit them in the right slot to facing the right guy first off. Because, like I said, Johnny Smith, this could easily... I had my notes, and I'll be honest, I basically said, well, basically this is going to be a squash match, is what I wrote down. But no, they give Johnny Smith some time. He looks really good. He makes Taz look amazing again. And then Taz actually gives him respect for it, which you wouldn't expect like the major heel to do, but he does. But it's just Heyman's ability to just bring these guys in, like you say. Not only are they come in and they're a threat straight away, he picks the right people to come in, and that's the key, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that. He's just willing to put guys over before they get in the ring. You know, if WCW are willing to bring in, anyone from Japan and, give them a few weeks build on TV and then have them come out and have someone like, I don't know, Arn Anderson come out and say, I know this guy's really good. You can establish a guy like that if you want to. They're just unwilling. I thought this match was, again, really good. It was a great wrestling match. It was a great story. And, if they've got Smith back next month, I'd watch this. I'll be like, okay, Johnny Smith's the name now. Really, really good. Right, to add to the ad hoc nature of this show, I'm going to jump to the men's room, but we're going to keep going. Chris, if you can take over the show with the question of what matches, if November to Remember is the big show of the year, what matches should headline them? You two discuss. I'll be back in a sec. This is one weird-ass show. Right.
If you get stuck, Bob, give us a shout.
Right, so going into November to Remember, we would have to say your main event has to be either Raven versus RVD, well, not Raven RVD even at all, Raven versus Tommy Dreamer, or Raven versus Sandman, because one of these feuds should culminate in your big show for the year.
Yeah, I hope to God, I've got the same here. I hope to God they do one of the two, and the third guy doesn't come and interfere, and we get some. I'm fearing we're going to get some sort of, what do they call it, a dusty finish.
See,
but I know that's what I'm going to get. I probably know I'm going to get some crappy finish.
But the thing is, you're always going to get that because you'll have Meanie Sandman or Meanie Stevie and the minions.
Maybe what they'll do then is my ideal is I want to see Raven and Dreamer wrap up. So Raven and Dreamer wrap up, Meanie and Richards get in the ring, Sandman helps Dreamer clear the ring, Dreamer wins, maybe.
See, I would go the other way. I would have Sandman and have the end to the whole thing with his kid and him to win back his kid's affection.
Yeah.
And have that as your big sort of culmination of the story. So
that's the thing. They're both really engaged. They're both really good storylines.
Obviously, your second headline has to be Douglas and Pitbulls.
Oh. See, that's gonna. I mean, if you think Chris, if you think Douglas had heat going into the match with sort of based, not a nobody, but with somebody like Piccoli, imagine how that's going to be, the build to this, because there's been at least 2 promos on every TV show leading up, and Douglas is just driving the point home that Gary Wolf's not going to wrestle, and he's got his woman.
See, another obvious one would be Sabu and Taz, but I think you do something so they don't actually have a match. You maybe put Taz versus RVD.
That can be an angle.
Bloody hell, you've made me jump in.
Just sneaking up on people. I'm back. That could be an angle.
Because obviously I think you hold that off. You hold off Taz and Sabu and you make it a bigger thing. You sort of make it as sort of mystical, sort of, enigma on it more than just giving it away. Because obviously if you're going to have Sandman and Raven, you're going to have Douglas and Pitbull, you don't want to give all 3 of your
You don't want to blow your load.
Yes. I would probably put the Gangsters against the Eliminators for the tag titles.
Money.
I'd do something with the Dudleys all together and try and finish that off. Because I love Bubba Ray and how funny he is, but I don't really like the Bubba Ray versus Devon feud. So whatever to get that finished out of the way would be great. It's ECW, we need a wrestling match, so I would put Tommy Smith or Johnny Smith against, I don't know, Piccoli again, get them some time to have a wrestling match.
I mean, I would actually like Smith and Piccoli against Furnas and Crawford.
Oh, big boy tag match.
Yeah,
I'd like
that, to open the show.
And there's your show.
Yeah.
I wouldn't open with that. They'll open with Sandman just cleaning up anyway. But that's a big match. That I don't know. I'd open with it. Carry on. I'm writing down my card, so you guys keep talking, and I'll come back to you.
Well, have we got any flippy abouty people that we could put on first?
Well, we could see who we could get hold of, because obviously, Conan's still in Heyman's phone book. There's probably some people we could get from CMML or even New Japan or All Japan. You could easily get someone in from south of the border or from the Orient, and there's your flip-to-do match sorted. So yeah, I feel that would be enough as a good show.
Here's what I've got. Just been scripted down where you guys have been chatting. Gangsters eliminated the tag titles. Maybe even with I don't know, if you can work out a loser leaves town stipulation, something big on that. I don't know, something like that, like a blow off match to that. That's a feud been going for a while. I think that should end. We'll go with Douglas versus Pitbull 2, with Pitbull 1 in his corner, with the idea that Douglas is about to win, and then Pitbull 1 whips off the neck brace, whacks Douglas over the head, Pitbull 2 wins, and then they write Douglas off for a while. I've got Raymond versus Sandman for the title in some kind of thing with Tyler involved, etc., etc. And then I have just started spitballing here. I would incline to agree. I think Taz and Sabu would be too early. So I've got Taz versus Rob Van Dam. There's an interesting little match. If we're going to talk about Rob Van Dam and Sabu trusting each other or something like that.
Are you having Sabu anywhere in this match, Bob, or is he not?
Not in this match, because I've got, as my wild card match, I've got Sabu against Bam Bam Bigelow.
Good God.
What makes you think Bam Bam would be about?
Well, he's around, isn't he? I mean, I don't think he's
alive. Chris, he's alive.
I mean, they want, I just, I didn't want to be too predictable. Bam Bam Bigelow came to mind, and then, all the other matches that will fill out the card. It's not, we don't think we're talking about the first pay-per-view, but if it's going to be their big show of the year, and November to Remember usually is, it was the best show in 1995, as we voted on last year. Something like that. Chris, dissect that.
Well, pretty much sort of as we sort of came across between me and Kieran, obviously we didn't have the Bam Bam Bigelow edition because we didn't think that far out of the box.
We're not that good. We're not that good, Chris. See, our two brains are not as good as Bob's one brain.
But as it's pretty much the same card that we came with. I like your idea of Pitbull 1 sort of taking off the protective halo and sort of having that sort of rising from the ashes phoenix moment to sort of cost Douglas. Obviously, again, I feel that there has to be something with Tyler and Sandman to end that, because you can't really have a 7-year-old in a wrestling storyline for that long. It gets a bit weird.
He's really creepy, that kid.
Yeah, he has got a bit of the omens about him.
He gives me the willies.
So yeah, and obviously we need Crawford and Lafon in there somewhere for big boy tag match.
Yeah. I really like that. I know it probably won't happen, but I really like that.
Who?
Furnas.
Furnas. I don't know why Lafon.
Lafon.
Where am I getting that from?
No, that was. Well, I think you just worked out Crawford being Crawford, and then you went Lafon. What the hell's that? Yeah, oh God. Let's wrap up the show, shall we? Right. Chris, anything else we should be discussing before we...
No, obviously, hopefully next month we'll find out more of the ECW side of the WWF invasion, and see what goes on with that from there, because obviously, as I said, they don't even mention it on ECW TV this month.
Well, if we're going to have an invasion, maybe a WWF performer at November to Remember. I don't know. Maybe. Get wheel Shawn Michaels to Philadelphia for the big match with Shane Douglas. I mean,
he'd get eaten alive.
Oh man, imagine Douglas for a night just being this gigantic baby face. That'd be amazing. I don't know if I'm Shawn Michaels. I mean, I don't think he'd go, but that'd be a really bad idea. I don't know that I'm going to Philadelphia, given it'd be great, wouldn't it? Douglas is like mega heels just for one night, being like the biggest face in the building. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, like I'm just trying to think who they could get. Well, maybe they could get Fake Diesel and Fake Razor. That'd do, wouldn't it? Anyone else that I think I mean, if Heyman was given the choice, I'd be inclined to think he might just try and get Pillman and Austin back.
Yeah.
And I know they've had them before, but that would make sense and that would tie in well with what they've got. Maybe an Owen Hart. If Paul Heyman's talking to WWF about an angle and he says to Vince McMahon, "Can I get Owen Hart for a night?" I'd be inclined to think Vince might go, "Yeah, we don't use Owen that much. You want to use him? Part of this angle? Let's do it."
You could put Owen in a ring with pretty much the majority of that roster and you get a decent to stellar match out of them.
Yeah. I think
you keep him away from the brawler. You keep him away from the brawler side, but you put him in with a Sabu, an RVD, a Taz even, you would get a really good match out of them.
Oh, yeah.
That could be a lot of fun. Let's wrap up this show. With apologies to all involved, we're usually better than this, but yeah, it's ECW is the bastard stepchild of this podcast, and it's it's the one that I vacate when I've got better things to do, and it's the one that often kind of comes together last minute sometimes. Firstly, a thanks to the man who's in charge of this show, Chris Lacey.
You're welcome, Bob. Next time,
steering the ship in any direction at all, but it's nice to have someone at the wheel.
Rudderless. Rudderless Chris Lacey.
Rudderless but not driverless. Chris, thank you very much. You are holding the show together at the moment, just about. So that's your contributions are very much appreciated.
We will sort of get a more standard format sorted, and
or any format at all next month. Anything,
Yeah, less chaos.
Yeah, a little bit. Chris, tell me about your Twitter, about your WCW podcast, et al.
So, you can get me on my personal Twitter at Lacey555666, which is namely football, modern day wrestling, music, or video game stuff. Or, what you can do, which would be an amazing idea, is follow and listen to Super Brawls, where we are just breaking in 1992 and about to record Super Brawl 2, which sees Lex Luger leaving to go off to the Fed.
Yes. And great, because because Luger leaves and then he does some bodybuilding, and then he just ends up as Hulk Hogan 2.0, and you can. Obviously Chris probably won't be doing much of any WWF stuff. You can pick up the start of the Luger journey on our podcast from '93. Got it. Like the Luger story in many ways is like one of my favourite stories of the podcast we've done, in the sense that we've kind of got the complete part of this WWF run entirely. Our first show is this big match against Yokozuna. We do all that build-up, and we see that start to finish. So it's one of the first complete stories that we get to tell. And obviously we don't get to tell the Luger WCW pre-93 stuff, but you want to hear all about that. Super Brawls have got you covered. Chris, anything else? Anything more to plug?
That is it. And obviously, listen to all of the Wrestling 20 Years Ago's, because they're all amazing.
All 86 episodes now.
Yeah, you don't have to do them all in a row, but
Yeah, you do.
There are some people that do download those in one go, and I kind of feel worried for their health. Because it is 160 odd hours now. Like he didn't sleep. He'd get through it in about 6 days.
Well, if you do, I congratulate you.
Yeah. Kieran Mitchell, sort of co-host this evening.
What about sort of? I'm brilliant. Yes, Bob, you can get me.
Actual co-host, sort of host was what I was going for.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on Twitter?
They can find me at JotunThrash666.
Excellent. Kieran, would there be any interest in hosting ECW next month? Would you like to promote yourself forward?
Oh, I'll give it a go. Yeah.
I might let that one linger. I might be on the show, but it's more the case of I might be. We'll see. I may ask you about that. ECW is our Have I Got News for You these days. We have a rotating group of presenters, of which I am one. Anyway, some plugs to get out of the way. First of all, as I said at the top of the show, we are on Patreon now. For those who don't know, Patreon is a place where if you'd like to say thank you for us enlightening your lives and for this uncoordinated mess of a show, you are more than welcome to do so. We're not in the business of gouging anyone for money. I'm not going to sit here and make a plea. I'm not going to do a Chris Jericho and tell you that without ads and without money, this podcast cannot run. It's not like that. It's just more, one, I've got some overheads. Admittedly, we're already kind of covered with the people who already donated that. But if you'd like to say thank you, chip in a bit of money to me as a thank you for, filling your commute or whatever. Patreon.com/wrestling24s. It's $5 a month at the exchange rate at the moment. That works out well, about £5 actually. It's just shy of that. And for that, we are offering you early access to shows. What that means is that we take these shows throughout the month. We're taping this on Tuesday. WCW show is going to be taped about 5 days later, and then that's going to get edited, and it's all going to go online. We take stuff throughout the month. It was about 10, 11 days ago. We take the UFC show. It was about 3 days ago. We take the WWF show. Stuff gets edited throughout the month. For patrons, when it's edited and when it's ready, we're not going to wait. We're going to put it on there for you. So as part of your donation, you'll get early access to shows so you can listen to them when they're ready. Any help is greatly received. If you don't wish to, you're not going to miss anything. All of the in-timeline stuff's going to come in. We're looking at a bit of bonus content, but it's largely going to be, stuff like Q&As and things like that. I have promised if we do reach a certain goal, I don't think we will, this is why I put it there, if we do reach a certain goal, we are going to go back and review Battle Bowl. That is...
Hey, I'm doing that free of charge.
Yeah, I'm in on that.
That's true.
We should do a massive group one.
We could get everyone on the show and just do a complete schmoz of an episode. And we'll pair each other up randomly, and it'll be really, really shit. I'm describing the show now. But yeah,
that sounds awfully like a concept that WCW did in the early 90s.
It does. And what we'll do is we'll end up with all 10 people on the recording for the final match review, and then I will just slowly drop their mics as we eliminate people from the final match. Okay, we've got to do. We may not get there, but that is the incentive. If you want to donate, the incentive is if we get to the McGregor money level, then we will do Battle Bowl. Anyway, other plugs. 4 volumes for you this month. Volume 1, WCW Full Brawl, taken out the weekend. Volume 2, WWF, looking at In Your House Mind Games, including, as we said at the top of the show, including the ECW angle. You listen to this and you want to hear a bit more about that in Thailand. We discussed that for about 5 or 10 minutes. That is on volume number 2. You also just get to hear me just rant about how shit Raw is at the moment. People talk about 2016 Raw being bad. And it's bad because it's 3 hours. 1996 Raw is bad because it's shit. It's
only 40 minutes.
It's so boring. I mean, it's just like, imagine a wrestling show with no star power. It's Raw from about June to, I think, about November. I think we bottom out next month. That's volume 2. Volume 4 is UFC, looking at, UFC 11. We talk about hodgepodge shows. That's the UFC tournament without a main event because there was nobody to face Mark Coleman. And that will do that. You can find me on Twitter at Bamber. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Wrestling20YRS. Wrestling20YRS.com, podcast, blogs, iTunes links, RSS subscriptions, email newsletter, and kicking back up again, Patreon links, all the above. This has been September 1996, Volume 3 of the Wrestling 20 Years Ago podcast. Till next time. Goodbye.